The ghost light, a single bulb left center stage after each performance, has traditionally served as a supernatural offering to those who came before us and those we have lost, to ensure that the theater, their theater, never goes dark.
That the magic of theater continues. Theaters from Broadway to the West End, Los Angeles to Savannah may be closed for now, but their ghost lights remain lit.
Our spirits remain hungry, our responsibilities clear. We look at this as an opportunity, a chance to build on the work we've done.
A chance to embrace our theatrical roots and create new adventures.
What we do now paves the way for the years to come, for the Savannah rep of the future.
We promise that the ghost light will burn brightly until it is safe to begin again.
It is our responsibility to carry on the traditions that precede us. We are Savannah Rep.
A home for great stories and great theater. The hands of the clock will move again, and this is not the end of the story.
It's a new beginning.
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 And we'll see you soon.
Friday, 5 p.m. I keep trying to get that first line like perfect after the credits, and I keep having the wrong take on it. Well, since I promised I was going to do this show until we were back on stage, I've got lots of episodes to get that first line right. It's Friday, it's 5 p.m. Welcome to OnStageOff, episode 6. We're so happy you're with us today. It's one of those rare days where, by all accounts, it's beautiful in New York and beautiful in Savannah, which seems to be something we usually take turns on, that, during the winter we have, beautiful weather in Savannah and it's, 8 in New York. And then during the summer when it's a nice 84 here, it's 173 in Savannah. So to have a day where we're all feeling the same way, since I know we have an audience in both cities, I'm so grateful that you're here with us. My name is Ryan McCurdy. And I'm very happy to have you here. We've got a great show filled with great friends, and looking forward to having some conversation. I've gotten in this habit where I try to do a monologue, and the truth is my guests are so much more exciting than a monologue, so I'm just going to get right to it. Please welcome to the show today's first guest. He's an actor. You know him. You've seen him. You love him. Please welcome Danny Johnson to the show. Hey, Danny.
Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful, man. It's so great to be with you today. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. I have enjoyed the times that we have worked together, and have also felt like they have been not nearly the quantity has not been nearly enough. So as soon as I had the chance to do this, I said I'm going to ask Danny, and you were right out of the gate to say you would. So thank you for that.
My pleasure, Ryan. I'm always honored to be, in anything that you're steering.
Yes, and I want to talk about a lot of things, but I also want to be very cautious of the fact that when I get friends in the room, it can just go and go and go. So I'm going to try to stay focused because I have a bunch of things I want to check in with you about. And I want to remind, yes, good. And I want to remind our audience too that if they have questions for Danny or any of our guests today, you can ask them in the comments. I'm going to try really hard to remember to bring them up on screen like this. Chris Bass saying hello, sir. Hello to you.
Hello, Chris.
Good. Let's get right to it. So, Danny, you are a lot of people know you from a lot of things, in that you have made this incredible sort of multi-medium career for yourself as a character guy, but also as a leading guy in funny roles. You've kind of run the gamut. I want to kind of come out of left field and ask you about a show that I didn't know about until I started doing some background for our interview, which was your Broadway debut, Song of Jacob Zulu.
Wow.
It's a show I didn't know anything about that you were part of the original team to have brought from Steppenwolf. And it's a show that once I started reading more and more about it, I'm obsessed with the creative team, and of course music and lyrics were by Ladysmith Black Mambazo. Knowing that this is something that was a little bit towards the earlier part of your career, I'd love to hear about how you came to be associated with it, what it was like making your Broadway debut in a show with, you know, such starry collaborators. What was that process like?
Wow, Ryan, you have gone deep into the bag, my friend, and that is awesome. I think that is great. You actually went deep, and you picked out one of my favorite moments in my career. Really, honestly, the Song of Jacob Zulu. This was a amazing thing to be involved with. We started in Chicago. I want to say it was around 1991, maybe 1992-ish or something like that. And we were at Steppenwolf. It was a big thing for me, it was my first show at Steppenwolf. I had grown up theatrically in Chicago. I grew up physically in Indiana, and then went to school at the Poole University in Chicago, and then came out and started, working around Chicago. So, I had worked at a few theaters, Goodman and, Victor Gardens and different places. But this was my first show at Steppenwolf, and lo and behold, here's Ladysmith Black Mambazo. They're like here, right? Zakes Mackay, the incredible South African actor, so known for, his work with Athol Fieldgard, is in the play. I'm working with like Chicago legends and icons, Pat Bowie, Patrick Clear, wonderful actors. And then, we put it to bed. We did it in Chicago, put it to bed. Then a year later, Oprah Winfrey and other people, Paul Simon, all this stuff, they want to take the show and bring it to Broadway. But first, could you please go to Perth, Australia, and play the Festival of Perth, which is like, this massive, incredible arts festival that takes place every other year, however they call that, in Perth, Australia, on the Indian Ocean, So I was like, yeah, well, I'm down for all of that. And, I was a youngster at the time. I think I was, 29, 30 years old. And all this was coming. And this was the project that actually brought me, after we came to Perth, to New York City. So we arrive in New York, 1993, Song of Jacob Zulu. We're like, hey, we're going to take on the world. We got this killer show. We got Ladysmith Black Mambazo. Zakes Mackay is my boy. We're going to do our thing up in here. And, we show up with a show about a boy who blows up a shopping market in South Africa, in the freedom struggle. And, to our misfortune, the World Trade Center bombing, the very first World Trade Center bombing, had happened like 4 months prior to our arrival, with this story that is asking for sympathy for a young African National Congress, ANC, they want to call, quote, terrorist. Some might say freedom fighter. This is what theater debates. We show up with this show and it was like, oh, wait a second, this is a show about a terrorist blowing up shit? Wait a second, we just had a terrorist blow up downtown, I don't know if I like this, Yeah. So it was a great show, a great production. Ladysmith Black Mambazo plays this Greek type chorus, telling this story that envelops about this young boy who starts off as like a preacher's kid and ends up, blowing up a shopping mall, as a freedom fighter for the ANC. And it's about the whole, dilemma that war and politics can leave person personally.
And it seems like it's way ahead of the curve. It was one of those things. It seems like it was ready for Broadway before Broadway was ready for it in a certain way. Also, it's way ahead of the curve of this idea that to collaborate musically on a production, you bring in you bring in the people that were already doing the thing and already making the sound and already, it's, you know, it's in a way, I know it wasn't a jukebox show, but it was kind of that idea that like there's no more accurate voice than the voice of the time, and the voice is already creating this music. And when I saw that, in my brain I assumed, oh, this is probably something that happened, you know, in like the 2005 to 2010, before I was in New York and paying attention as much as I do to Broadway, and to know that it was that far back, and that they were trying these really ambitious concepts. And I love Steppenwolf, and I love that you're a Chicago stage guy, because I think Chicago is sort of the forgotten child of New York, and to some degree LA a lot of times. And everyone that I know that has gone to Chicago is working these robust careers and making incredible art. And so I always love to reiterate how powerful of a city it is whenever I have the chance.
It's an amazing training ground. You know, I was fortunate to, do academic, conservatory training there. Like I say, at DePaul University, I think it's called the Theater School at DePaul University now. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, it was called the Goodman School of Drama, so I actually entered the Goodman School of Drama, graduated from the Theater School at DePaul. And then, you've got Northwestern University there. You've got the City College. What is the? There's a major, like city or state college that's right there in Chicago as well. They have a great theater training program as well. So there's great academics. There's great private theaters to train in, mm-hmm. and then there's, once you actually get to the equity level of working actors and everything like that, wow, what a training ground. I mean, there's so many fantastic theater companies, and this is an incredible place to work, thrive, live. I could have stayed in Chicago. I could have easily stayed in Chicago.
Well, I know New York is glad to have gotten you, and a lot of times you've been a face of a lot of the shows that have sort of led the pack with the sort of the reconstruction of New York as a shooting city for television. Yeah. You are in a lot of the shows that shoot here, which I think is great. And I can't go too far, because if guests are watching and are not familiar with your work, they will notice the voice, which is the voice that you possess is an instrument from the heavens. And it has brought you into such rooms as I can't go without saying that you're Ben Donovan in the Marvel Cinematic Universe from Daredevil and Luke Cage. I enjoyed your arc very recently in a position of authority in For Life. I'm going to show a quick video clip of somewhere else where your voice does all the work, and I'll have to admit that when I first saw this as a player, my jaw dropped to the floor, because I recognized you but didn't recognize you. And so here's a quick clip.
All of you, this is Tumbleweed. We are the end of the civilized world.
How do you do?
Anarchy exists just outside this town, but here, life is good. And life is good because we follow the rules. Disobedience will be fatal.
Mister?
None of you forget that. Welcome to Tumbleweed, son.
I always love that, the welcome to Tumbleweed after the doom and gloom. And I think I cut that clip off before you say that you're going to gut someone like a pig. I think that's in that monologue somewhere. So obviously that's Red Dead Redemption 2. Danny, how did you get involved with that? And what, as a voice actor for games, what's that experience like for you in a way that is different from television or film?
Well, you know what? It's a highly theatrical experience, I have to say. I really, really love working on video games, and I've actually worked on a few. This, and at this point, it's really actually much more than voice acting. You're actually, that's me. Like all that movement and all that stuff. I was there, in the studio with all the technology that you have to wear. And, it is quite a bit of technology, I have to say. I've worked on several video games through the years. I think the very first video game I worked on was Grand Theft Auto 3. And
I'm dating myself by knowing that game very well. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was playing when it was still 3 pixels in a dream. So I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's all quite proprietary. So I really, am restricted from going into like a lot of the details. Some of the stuff is known. Let me just say that, like, the technology that you see today in a project like Red Dead 2, versus what was happening on, GTA 3. It's just, excuse me. It's something you've never seen before. It's just something you can't imagine. It's just ridiculous.
And
the level of advancement.
And if this is in your NDA, feel free not to answer. But Chris does want to know, and this is a 2-part question: did you have dots on your skin? Part 2 for the mocap, as though it was not clear that having dots on your skin was. Did you have dots on your skin? And if you can't answer that, you can't. But
I mean, I had no dots on my skin, my physical skin.
Okay.
I can say that, like, my skin was a lot of attention was paid to like very particular portions of my skin. Yes.
Great. Now, one of the things that I always love, and it's something that it is the only medium that I've encountered, and I know a lot of people. There's a virtual opera that's shooting right now, which I think is really genius. That everyone's in a soundproof booth in a mocap suit, and they're being put into a physical space, but they're also being turned into robots and aliens and delightfully sort of crazy. So we're kind of examining live capture mocap. But one thing that I love that only happens in video games, and it happened in the clip I just showed, is when the AI characters, the characters that are voice actors that are doing thousands of lines for like drive-bys and walk-bys, when they come up in the middle of your brilliant monologue and are like, "Howdy, mister." I love that never happens in any other medium, but you'll be playing a game, and we were playing Assassin's Creed the other day, and we're 37 hogs come out of nowhere and kill everybody, and they go on. It's like, I don't assume that was programmed. That's just what we call the luck of the draw.
Yeah.
So I love playing in Tumbleweed and Red Dead because your character has this acting through line, which is so theatrical and so well delivered, but also the AI makes it, you can't have the same experience twice in a row because those characters are living their own lives and interfering with everything your character is doing, which I love.
Yeah, that's right. It's really quite, it's really quite an experience, because when you're going through all of that stuff, when you're shooting it all, because you have different scenarios that you want to be able to cover and everything, and the director's like, it's like, let it rip, so you can kind of really feel free.
So I've got 2 projects on the docket I want to talk to you about. Both are things that are in the cycle right now or are coming out soon. The first one I want to bring up is a film called Still Here. Mm-hmm. I was hoping you might give us a little background on it and what its next plan is and when we might be able to see it.
Well, this is a great little crime drama that I've shot. Probably like 4 years ago, honestly. It's been in the can for a while. It was tinkered with, and then now it's finally being released. It took
I lost Danny for a second. Oh, he's back.
Oh, it's the first the director's very first feature film. It's kind of gritty. It tells a New York City story. It is very alive and very real. It has great performances throughout. Zazie Bates, this was really before Zazie Bates became like Zazie Bates, and then we have like wonderful performances, Afton Williamson, Jeremy Holm, Maurice McCray. I mean, Maurice McCray is the father here. This is just one of the really, truly indie, heartbreaking fathers that you're going to find. I'm really proud of the movie, yeah. And you can find it on Amazon Prime. You can find it on Google Plus, or not Google Plus, but Google. If you search "Still Here" movie or "Still Here 2020," you can definitely find it. I know you can find it on Amazon. It's like super, super affordable. It's like maybe like $4 or $5 on like Amazon. So definitely check it out. I mean, it's going to be worth your 90 minutes. I guarantee you.
Danny guarantees it. And as as someone that knows Danny, I will tell you, if he guarantees something, it's true. So everybody that's watching right now, go check it out. Report back next week. Tell me. I know Chris Bass will. Chris Bass, Danny is one of the. He is one of the hardest working people in the Savannah community, and as an actor himself. And it's one of those things I don't think a community realizes how much they need a cheerleader like Chris is for their community until they already have one. It's one of those things that's it's a position that has to be filled, but no one realizes how necessary it is until there is one.
That's right. Yeah, Chris, I hear you, man. I see you, man. I love you. Do your thing for Savannah, man. Absolutely. Yes,
it's vital. And then I'm running out of my chance to talk to you, which is killing me because I want to sit here and catch up on everything. But you did a film as well, which I read up a little bit about this afternoon, and looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's called On the Whistle. If you've got time, tell us a little bit about it as well.
Yeah, On the Whistle is a great little independent film. There's a student filmmaker who just graduated from Yale Film School. TJ Noel Sullivan is his name. Definitely look out for him because he's like a wonderkin, going to be hot shot out here. It's a film about a basketball coach in sort of like a Connecticut suburb. The suburb is sort of like it's sort of like he's the basketball coach. He's having tryouts. His team is most Black and Latino, and this young kid shows up. This white kid shows up, and he's the son of the new superintendent of schools, and he feels like he's going to make the team, but he's maybe not quite doing everything he needs to do to get there. He thinks maybe he can just kind of show up and get it, And my coach, the coach that I play, is really trying to push him to bring the team together. And it's a great little 20-minute narrative short debut. So you can find it directorsnotes.com. You can find it. You can do it's on IMDb. A bunch of places.
I made a link to scroll below that will push directly to you. You can watch the whole thing at this link. It's the one you sent me, Danny.
Yeah.
And I haven't. I was in a rush getting ready for the show, so I've only seen half of it. But it demands to be finised. So I'm looking forward to going back and seeing the rest of your work in it.
Yeah, it's at the perfect price. It's $3.99.
Yeah, that is. It is the and everything free, on demand.
Free.
Danny, I will say this doesn't require an answer because it's not really a question. I just want to say we have a lot of collaborators in common, and we met. Actually, you're one of only 2 actors that has worked in both of my New Works production companies over the years. You worked towards the tail end of when it was Front Porch, and more recently with Bespoke Plays on doing a play from an LA writer, Afeni Kiyomura, called Supper in New York. But I've been lucky enough to have a lot of mutual collaborators with you. Everybody that works with you is just blown away by your kindness and specifically your generosity of spirit. And I just want to say thank you for being you. Thank you for bringing so much wealth of content to us and doing it with this incredible kindness. It's something I really appreciate. So,
it's my pleasure, Ryan. I'm honored to be in your presence all the time. I wish everybody well in Savannah Rep, and I look forward to seeing everybody again soon.
Awesome. Danny Johnson, we will see you soon. Keep safe, be well, and we'll be in person before you know it.
Okay, cool. Ciao, everybody.
Ciao. That's Danny Johnson. I mean, come on, y'all. That's what I call a class act right there. I'm just so pleased that Chris and Danny got to meet virtually there for a moment, and I'm so pleased about being able to watch all of these new works. The one good thing about the video on demand culture is that I'm getting to see a lot of my friends' projects that would have been on possibly a very different schedule for the theater release. So VOD, the one good thing it's bringing us is great work from our friends and collaborators. We'll be right back after this brief message from a sponsor that is not our sponsor, with the incredible Stephen Lyons.
You're bad
batting average is totally awesome. What's your secret?
M&M's. I hit singles when I eat the brown ones, doubles with yellows, orange, triples. And with the green ones, I take the ball downtown.
Magnificent!
Kevin, you're up.
Quick, give me a green one.
Only one homer left. That's for me. Here's a triple.
M&M's chocolate candies. The milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
I love that ad. I do. Yeah, and Stephanie, hi. Yes. Hi, Stephanie. Hello. Excellent. That was very exciting. I saw that come up in the comments there, and I did not know what to do. That's awesome. My next guest is an actor-musician, a singer-songwriter. He was on last week, so you already know you're going to like him. Please welcome to the show, Stephen Lyons. Hey, my brother.
Brother. How are you, my friend? Can you hear me okay?
I hear you clear as a bell. Do you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
So happy to have you back. You came on last week. You tempted us with a song, and I promised the viewers more. So thank you for coming back to join us.
Absolutely.
I've got a little surprise for you and for the audience in that I have a quick video of the two of us that I'm going to show because when I need a pick-me-up, this is a thing that I watched. I tested this with someone else in this house this afternoon, and it went over like gangbusters. Here's Stephen Lyons and Ryan McCurdy doing something.
Magical unicorns on high, flying over rainbows, fine and fancy, prancing slightly. Ah! Ah! Ah!
Can we do one more? Yeah. Oh, the camera fell over.
Because the camera got scared.
Everything else was flawless. It was the camera's fault. That's our friendship in a 45-second video. Stephen, it's going to be nepotism if I brought you on just to talk about our collaborations. I want to talk about you as a creator. I want to talk about this beautiful album of yours called Fall, which was my first introduction to you. Tell us about the songs that have already poured out of you. Tell us about the ones that you want to make. And then I'm hoping you might treat us to one at some point, although you don't have to.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. Thank you so much for having me on, and the extraordinary work you're doing at Savannah Rep. I mean, this is such a critical time to get love for the arts supported and get it helping the spirit and economically everything else. This is Fall. It's been a long time since I've been in the studio as a solo musician, and there's so much that's forcing us to think creatively and in new creative ways. So I've been, over the past couple of years, I've been getting better with home recording. And so continuing that journey and have been developing a lot of things in the woodshed. The whole process has been one of like, this is what this can do. This is how I build on this. And sometimes it's just something as simple as a reverb. It's responding to the chord structures that are coming out of you and the frequencies that are deep in you. And a lot of that is just really about what is affecting us on a daily basis. So there are a lot of songs that I would call, just beginning, but a lot that are very close to being finished as well. So I've been working, just absorbing, like this past year obviously is, you don't need to say much about it other than what it is. But there's been this feeling of going silent, this sort of natural thing that's happening to all of us where we're just being stilled. Mm-hmm. In the spring I came down with the virus. And, it's been like one tsunami after another. But the thing that hardship does is it brings out, the human spirit and what we are really at the core. So it caused me to become very, very quiet inside and pray a lot. You know, I have a prayer life that sustains me, and so I try to, you know, it just became about very simple things. My housemate, you know, Anthony Santella, who's also a sculptor and a tremendous visual artist in his own right, he would make us lentil beans like every, you know, week or so because we couldn't go out. And, you know, just thinking about that gift of, you know, food. We have lentils. We have this food. It's going to sustain us. And it's amazing how sometimes the things like this force you to just really reflect on the gifts that you have. And our friendship's a blessing, you know, reflecting on the work we have done as Bonfire Falls over the past couple of years. And kind of strange how some of the songs, you know, have revealed the climate that we are now in. Like they're almost, you know, I don't want to sound like they just have a kind of prophecy about them, about the times, and then they would happen, you know. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, and just being grateful for who we are, our friends in our lives, our families, especially, you know. And yeah.
I want to jump on something you said. The idea of I guess re-weighting is not the right word, but the idea of sort of reallocating the concept of where gifts fall into our lives. The idea that simple gestures, which have always been a very unified love language, that simple gestures are suddenly taking on this incredible amount of precedence. The idea that lentils once a week suddenly they become an event. They become, you know, they become lifeblood, life force. I just think I think it's beautiful. I think there really are only two ways to sort of confront the era that we're in, and that's with stillness or with ferocity, you know. And I think and I know people that have responded with both, and it will be very hard to gauge until this is all in the past to know which was the correct one to use. But you are still, I am still. It's one that we share. I want to talk real quick. Obviously, Bonfire Falls is something that's very, very, very important to me. I'm gonna scroll how you can help Bonfire Falls. That's our Patreon below. One of those things. Talk about the companies that were ahead of the curve without even knowing it. You know, Broadway HD had this concept to, you know, shoot Broadway shows with enough cameras that you could sit at home and Netflix Broadway, and suddenly the ones they were able to capture are the ones people are glued to, or have been for the last couple of months. Patreon is a great example of, you know, this idea that suddenly the season subscription for theaters and for bands, the idea that there is a season or a cycle that you can count on, it's out the window for the next little bit. So it's this idea that on a monthly basis you can sustain something that you love. But it's just these companies that were way ahead of the curve. Couldn't have known it was going to be this, but obviously we're thinking about a world where we're going to be inside a lot longer, and that's the world we're in right now.
Yeah.
So Stephen, talk. I know I could tell the stories easily, but talk a little bit. We're very close to the day that the two of us met several years ago. Talk about sort of those early days of Bonfire Falls, because I love the story of us as a duo becoming a trio. So tell that story because I love it. And then, do you have a song for us today?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Great. So I'd love to hear that story. Then we'd love to hear a song. Lots of things to do, but the story first, please, Stephen.
Yeah. So when I made the decision to move back to New York to pursue the music career. This was 6 years ago or so. I try not to keep track of time, but moved back to the city. Was hitting the pavement hard for open mics. And I remember the night I met you, I was walking down West 57th, I think it was. And there was this quote, I'm trying to remember the quote, but it was some sort of inspirational quote.
Oh, good. Wait, like on a wall or on, like spray painted or?
It was on the sidewalk.
Men at work.
Men at work. Men are constantly working. What? They're always working.
This is a very high-end journalistic production right now. I just want to point that out. Okay, so not to derail your story. So you saw an inspirational phrase that was not meant.
Yeah, and it was one of those moments like because you're afraid to make that leap. Oh my God, do I move back to New York?
Right.
What's this? And you see this thing, and it's this quote, and it's like, yeah, I'm on the right path. I'm literally on the right path. And later that night, I wound up at the Inspired Word. Mike Eppner's Inspired Word, and walked in, played a few songs, and then sat down. And then I saw this swaggering gentleman approach the open mic, Ryan McCurdy, ladies and gentlemen, and he played Coastal Town, the original version, and I was like, wow, this guy is. And so he comes walking off the stage, and I see his jacket. And on his jacket, it says, "Once, a new musical." And the ancillary story to this is that I'd met Erica Walsh, our incredible violinist and co-writer. She was, we were friends through MySpace. We still have MySpace's accounts.
Those cost free $99.
So
you woke up the green room right there. I just saw a head shoot up in the green room when you did that. There was, I remember in particular, there was a road trip you and I were on where you decided to rock vocal everything that you saw on a billboard. I think it was when we were trying to get me home from Philly one time. Anyway, so Erica Walsh was someone you knew from MySpace. I keep derailing your story. And
yeah, and then I said, hey, I have a friend in that show. He's like, oh, really? It's like, Erica Walsh. I know Erica Walsh. And we just started chatting away, and just, that sort of special chemistry that happens when two similar souls come together and, have that musical DNA as well. And then the next thing, Brian was like, you know what? This is the name of our band. We are going to be in a band together. It's called Bonfire Falls. I don't even need to come up with a name because it just happened.
And it did. And I had decided weeks before we met that I wanted Erica to play violin in a band that I knew was going to happen. But Erica and I, as a duo, didn't make a ton of sense because you kind of need that second guitar or that second. And at that point, I was actually giving Erica guitar lessons at that point, but I knew that her instrument, her sweet spot is the violin. And I was like, well, we're going to need someone else. If we're going to do this, we're going to need someone else. And then life brings you what you need, and exactly as much as you can handle, which is our friendship. I just want to point out this lit up the chat that Jeff Jacobs is here and says, oh, hey, man. He loves hearing about the early days, and he never actually heard the story of how we two met. So
I got it right.
I think that was all. Yeah, I think that was exactly right. Stephen, if I go to my wide shot and you magically come back with a guitar, will you do us the honor of a song right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So I'm gonna do this. So it's gonna look like a magic trick while you're setting up the guitar. Stephen Lyons is a singer-songwriter, an actor-musician. He has composed for Shakespeare. He has composed for modern dramatists and playwrights. He has a solo album out available called Fall, and is also the lead voice of Bonfire Falls. And the album that they have out is called Lifetime. If I had gotten that wrong, I would have been in a lot of trouble. I am very honored to bring to you Mr. Stephen Lyons.
Back to the one room back I was running from. Secrets and sequins, sadness on a Saturday night. We were burdened by by unholy wars, the insincere, the sinister, revival of our deep set fear. I took one back I was running for. Everything was falling into place, I was falling apart. And the hardest part in letting go, you keep your heart and soul, you know. I've been high, I've been low, been down every road I could go. I've been high and low, chasing every rainbow I know. I took the one back I was running from. Everything was falling out of time, we were falling in love. The hardest part in letting go, you give your heart and soul, you know. I've been high, been low, been down every road I could go. I've been high, been low, chasing every rainbow you know. Hard life, hard life, hard life, we were burdened by unholy wars, the insincere, the sinister, revival of our deep set fears. We've been high, we've been low, we've been down every road we could go. We've been high, been low, chasing every rainbow we know. You're not like a silver dollar shining on my neck. You're not like a silver dollar shining on my neck.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Stephen Lyons. Stephen, in very good voice today, my friend.
Inspired.
I don't want to take up your entire day. Do you have enough time to stick around and sing us out in a couple of minutes at the end of the show, or do you need to roll? You got time to hang with us?
I do have to get going, actually.
Excellent.
In a little bit.
I understand. That's all good. Do you have one more right now?
Yes.
Excellent. I feel like you're the only person I can ask point blank like that, but you lit the chat up, and I think people wanted more. If you felt like more.
Not only one, lie alone at nights and feel the loss of innocence. You're not only one, lie alone in starlight at the side, the way the story ends. There's something beautiful I found. Each time I fall, each step I lose, chasing back to you. me back to you, but I didn't mean to hurt your love. You're not the only one. You can't waste your time waiting on a rainbow to come around. But you're not the only one I love. Not only one. Can't foresee that mystery that swallows up your heart, to fall, to fear, to lose, to learn. You can love again. You're not the only one. Something beautiful I lost. Not only one to feel that bittersweet
Now, see, that's why you're the person I can ask if they've got a second song. And they think a moment, and then they give us that. Steven, I love it. All right. Wishing you many, many blessings and much love for your days and weeks ahead, my brother. And I appreciate you being here with us today. That's my friend, Stephen Lyons, who I hope for all of y'all's sakes is someday your friend as well. Stephen, thank you for being with us today, and we'll see you real soon.
Hey, brother. God bless. I'll see you soon.
All right, my brother. Talk soon. Oh, this show is electric. I love it. All right, we will be back in just a moment with the extraordinary David I.L. Poole. Didn't queue up the video in time. I'm going to say that one more time. We'll just edit this out in post. David I.L. Poole.
A little something happens when I grab that stick. I become a pop star in just one lick. I'm a popsicle pop star. I'm a popsicle pop star. Creamsicle pop star. All our favorite flavors come on that stick. I become a pop star in just one lick. I'm a popsicle pop star.
And okay, that ad's over, and I was not intending to be doing that. Welcome back to the show. My friends, my next guest is a Savannah legend. He has crafted, along with his collaborators, some of the most visually stunning and most beautifully acted projects that I've been lucky to see in the Lowcountry or anywhere. He is a director and a creator. Please welcome to the show, David I.L. Poole. Here he is.
Hey!
Hey, David, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am well. I was being honest with you in the chat just while we were talking to Stephen. I appreciate your patience. I have yet to learn the lesson that I have on people that I appreciate and respect so much, and I run long over and over. So thank you for sticking around and being with us today. David, how is let's start with a great question. How's your world? I got to see you digitally yesterday at the Rep town hall. How are you? How's everything? Just bring us up to speed.
It's good. Everything is good. You know, Collective Face Theater Ensemble, which I'm the artistic director of. We're on hiatus until, this thing calms down and all of that, and looking at projects, etc., with other companies and what's going on with the world. And I'm doing fine. And it's a great time to, I was talking to Jennifer Bishop yesterday. We were talking about it's a great time to reevaluate and rethink about things and try to create things in new ways, and just think about the world and what your purpose is, kind of,
I would say, this serious question, have you re-examined, I would feel as an outsider viewing your work, I would view your purpose as being exactly what you are doing. Have you found that in this re-examination you have found other things that are purposeful and that things that you would like to pursue, or has it just sort of recommitted yourself to the work that you are able to do when you are able to do it?
I think it's a recommitment. It's a recommitment, and it's focusing more on themes, projects that I really want to be involved in. That's what I've been doing, and re-examining, because I'm also an educator. I teach at Savannah State University, and so trying to, how do I pass it forward in a lot of ways? How do we instill knowledge and passion and etc. in the next generation that's going to come up?
And you do have a unique, I think a lot of people have not felt the very unique perspective you have on things, having been, prior to COVID, having been simultaneously an educator and an artistic director or
Right.
co-collaborator. So working inside of the educational and the more commercial theater worlds at once.
Right.
Did you, now I know that how has doing both affected the way that you do both, if that's not too insane of a question? Has doing both simultaneously affected the way either is done by you, or have they always been different switches that you can throw on and off when you're working in
Well,
those idioms?
I wouldn't say switches. I would say that it's all homogenized in my thinking process, because one of the forms of theater that really is near and dear to my heart is creating experiences of a lifetime. And I always say, this piece of theater, I don't know how, because you can't predict it, but somebody's going to walk in and see this show, hopefully, and it will change their lives in some way. And so from an educator's standpoint, I take it, okay, how is this going to educate them? But from a general audience perspective, commercially, I guess, I go, how is this experience going to be a mirror of them on stage, or how do they relate to this, or how is this an experience that they've never had before?
I love it, and you can work with that goal across both of the platforms that you're inside of. Yeah. Now, your company, for those, since we have a Savannah audience and a New York audience, and hopefully audiences from and we have audience in LA as well. So I'm hoping for those that have not been to Savannah or don't know the theater scene, you are Collective Face Theater Ensemble. This is the website, I believe, below. I want to make sure I've got that in. Great.
Yes, correct.
I'm trying to get my history right as well. Does Collective Face go back to its very beginnings in Enchanted April at the church? Or
yes,
was that number one? Okay,
that was number one. That was the first show we ever produced was at Epworth, which is no longer. I think they're making it into some kind of apartment artist commune complex thing.
Okay, good.
Up in the Starland area of Savannah, and but that was the first show we did. A few students that I attended SCAD with, Richie Cook and Anthony Valdez and Kristen Long at that time, and me, we decided to form a theater company in Savannah, and that was our inaugural show. I was teaching at Savannah State at that time, and I was approached by the pastor of the church at that time. And he said, well, my theater sort of department is kind of dying, but, I would love for you guys to come in and maybe do a show. And I said, okay, here we go, and that's how it ended up happening. So
was the intention from the very beginning, because I know a lot of the people that you just listed, and I know Carla and Andy, who were both in April, if I'm tracking.
Yes.
I saw April before I moved to New York, but it has been a number of years now, so I'm glad I remembered that. They are both company members, or have been company members of Collective Face. Was it always intended to be a company model, or did it spring out of who committed to the project for its first go around?
Well, no. What ended up happening was at first we were just a theater company, a standard theater company model, and with a board of directors, et cetera, et cetera. And then we developed sort of a company model when I did a lot of research on companies that had existed in Savannah and what the community had said about those companies. And one of the things that they had said was that there seemed to be this sort of casting policy of, oh, well, they're just going to cast everybody who they already know every single time. And I said, well, yes and no. And so why don't we go with sort of a rep company model where we have a company that we pull from the local area, and then we can always grow the company, and then people don't feel like, oh, well, there's no way I'm going to ever get into to one of their shows because, I'm not a company member. But this way they know, well, these roles have been selected for these company members where they have their artistic home. And then we can bring in Ensemble and from time to time cast, leads or et cetera, et cetera.
And approximately, what is the size of the company at this moment in history? Counting sort of ex officio members and current members as well.
Yeah. Right now, current active, what we call active members, we are I think we're now at about 20 people. Because of COVID, a lot of people have actually moved. It's like, they're all moving all over the place. So some members that we had have moved on to other places. But if from the beginning you count everybody who's ever been a company member, I think the total was something like 55.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So now we're down to 20 locals who are company members. But of course, we're in hiatus. How do you plan a season? What are we doing?
Right. Is it a for-profit or a not-for-profit? I realize I don't know that. So it's not-for-profit. So yeah. So for those watching that would like to be able to subsidize what's happening in the future, they are able to make donations to the company in that room.
Yeah, correct.
And you have a means of doing that on the website, which I'll put up again. I think. Yeah. Yes. Great. I'll put that up again. I had sort of a question I realized I had never gotten answered before today, was whether having the company model has made your season selections simpler or harder, in that have you found that in more cases it has given you really clear ideas of the shows that you could do that your company could ace, or has it made it harder because there are a lot of people to try to program into opportunities?
I look at it as a way to program people into opportunities. And one of my policies has always been, I choose shows or productions based on a couple of factors. One is, what has the audience been asking, kind of a lot of times, also requesting, also trying to stretch us as a company. I'm not afraid to take risks. And sometimes, we fail, it is what happens. But, I try to choose works that are not produced a lot, or are overly produced, and then we throw our spin on it.
I would say that'd be where your Jesus Christ Superstar would land, right. Shows like that, right?
Right. Or Death of a Salesman, for sure. Those shows are ones that we have taken and put our spin on them. But most of a lot of, like last season or season before, we did Big Love by Charles Mee, and to my knowledge, he had never been done in Savannah. So there had been no shows of Charles Mee in Savannah. So it was a new author. Yeah. The reaction was very mixed, because he is such an avant-garde playwright. And that's what I kind of tend to do. I'm kind of like, okay, well, let's try something that a little different and risky and colorblind cast this, and what does this happen? And as I was saying last night in our roundtable, the last year and this year, we have committed to this thing called the Jubilee.org. And the Jubilee is this commitment to producing works by voices we don't necessarily always hear on the stage, be it people with disabilities, people, of all ethnic races and creeds and, sexual orientations, et cetera, women playwrights, that kind of thing. And so we were looking at pushing that sort of agenda forward this upcoming season. But
great. I purposefully have not asked you any questions about your set designs, because I know that they're already this beautiful. They're always this beautiful collective understanding in Savannah of your sets. Your team's sets are very well known. When you were working at Muse Arts Warehouse and the things you did with Salesman and with
right.
Equus, like there was just beautiful designs. And I don't want to ask any questions about them, because I feel like a lot of the audience already knows about them, and that's sort of a hallmark of yours, that your productions always look beautiful. But I just want to show, for people that don't know your set design overall, I want to show this sketch to build of, I believe this is August, Osage County, yes?
Yeah,
this
correct.
is the sketch. It's a low res, not on purpose, but it shows this extraordinary attention to detail. So that's not so much as a question as just to say, I have spent 15 years being astonished by the worlds that you've built for your actors, and I've always thought it's been that the way that you've done your rep model is such a creative way to harness these designs that you also have up there,
right?
That you really do build in a way that a lot of directors don't have the training to, or don't have the sketching and building means to. You build them the world that you have conceived as a director, which I think a lot of directors don't or can't do.
Right.
So it's been something I've always been amazed by. The last question I had for you is about what is coming up. Obviously, Collective Face is on a bit of a hiatus until we know what's happening, as is Savannah Rep, which is why we're both here today on this show. But I want to talk about. I believe you've got an Oedipus coming up with Savannah State, and I want to hear what you're planning, because I heard a little bit of it yesterday at the town hall, and I'm fascinated. So bring us up to speed on Oedipus as much as you can.
Well, I was looking because I teach this Acting 3 course, which is classical acting or acting styles, and so what I was anticipating was some kind of show, a performance that they do for their midterm and final. And in the classical realms, usually that means a Greek play or Shakespeare, or maybe a Moliere, but most of the time I gravitate towards the Greek. And we hadn't done Oedipus. We had done Agamemnon a couple of years ago, now like 4 years ago, but it was time for another Greek. And I was like, well, why don't we do Oedipus? Because I have the right amount of people to do it. And let's try to figure out how we can navigate a production of Oedipus in this COVID world. And so my first thought was like, okay, let's go post-apocalyptic, wear face shields and masks and all of this stuff. And then I was like, and I was talking it over with a collaborator that I have worked with for many years. And she is an expert in Africana studies. And she was like, well, there is a tribe in Africa, West Africa, the Yoruba, where the king is masked. He which they call an Oba. An Oba is sort of a divine king. And they wear these beautiful beaded crowns that have all these beads that come down in the front, and they're kind of conical, and they have like all these beautiful symbols, usually of birds on them. And I went, okay, well, why don't we investigate this? And I found some students actually through our international studies program at Savannah State that are actual Yoruba. And so I contacted these students, and they came in, and I was like, okay, well, I want to transport this whole production into West Africa. The Yoruba are primarily in Nigeria. And I was like, how do we do this? What would be okay? What would be not cultural appropriation? How do we make this all work? And we worked for about a week and a half, translating this short. It was a reader's theater production of Oedipus script. So it's very short and sweet. And I was like, okay, so we can mask our performers. That would be okay. And how do we present this to a public? And I was like, well, like most traditional theater, ancient theaters, outside. Let's do it outside. And because we're not, asking for ticket prices or anything like that, and we don't have to really have to deal with sustaining buildings and that kind of deal, I was like, well, why don't we do this as an event where our students can perform, and we're going to perform right at our Kennedy building, which is our theater building. Mm-hmm. And it has like these steps and these columns, and so I'll just modify it a little bit with double doors and things like that, but do an outdoor total theater performance kind of thing, harking on this African Yoruba aesthetic, and looking at other theaters that have kind of opened up around the country. They actually took reference from Domino Park in New York, and doing these social distancing circles. So in front of Kennedy is this sort of walkway with trees and grass, and sort of like a courtyardy kind of deal. And so that's the plan. The plan is to do these social distancing circles, tell people, bring a blanket, bring your chairs, come and see this performance of Oedipus. And we're calling it Oba Oedipus because, Oedipus the king, translated to Yoruba would be Oba Oedipus. And so, yeah, that's what we're working on, and hopefully it'll go up I'm waiting for approval from the administration, but until, and then we'll know for certainty, but right now it's planned for early October.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I've been working on, and the students are getting that sort of classical theater training. They're actually doing a lot of mask work because they have to be masked and covered, and it's really fascinating for me to look at this anthropological sort of historical understanding of the Yoruba. So, and their different customs and translating those customs into this Western play and making it more African or of an Eastern African sort of aesthetic, that total theater thing.
It's going to be great.
Yeah,
obviously a lot of moving pieces, and it's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of questions to be answered approaching that date. But sensing everything going up and everything being approved and everything you need, it's going to be wonderful. So congrats on developing such new work in such a difficult environment. Well, I'm going to let you go and end our broadcast for the day because I have, as usually, gone too long. But David, thank you so much for joining.
Yes, it was a pleasure.
And we'll see you again soon.
Yes.
David Poole is faculty at Savannah State University, as well as the artistic director of Collective Face Theater Ensemble, which I will put up one more time at www.collectiveface.org. Obviously, I know a lot of Savannians are waiting with bated breath to find out when they will be producing again, and I count myself among them. So we're very happy to have had David join us today. For those that are just joining, my name is Ryan McCurdy. Thanks for joining me today. I am the Executive Artistic Director of Savannah Repertory Theater, which gives me the opportunity to say we still need your donations and your help to keep us alive during this very, very trying era. A wonderful anonymous patron of the company has offered to match the first $500 in donations to the company, made both this month and next month, for a total of $1,000 in matches. We are halfway there for this month. So at SavannahRep.org/ghostlight, every dollar that you give there will be doubled until we get to 500. And I will tell you very honestly, as someone who's reading the numbers every day and watching our amazing team keep the building and the properties aloft, they're doing incredible work, but it is very expensive work, and we're grateful to everyone that can and has chosen to help. That's On Stage Off. As you might predict, we'll be back next Friday at 5. I'll do my hair. I'll wear this shirt. We're so much looking forward to seeing you. Thanks to my guests, Danny Johnson, Stephen Lyons, and David Isle Poole. We'll see you next week. And until then, we promise you great stories and great theater.
The Ghostlight, a single bulb left center stage after each performance, has traditionally served as a supernatural offering to those who came before us and those we have lost, to ensure that the theater, their theater, never goes dark.
That the magic of theater continues. Theaters from Broadway to the West End, Los Angeles to Savannah may be closed for now, but their ghost lights remain lit.
Our spirits remain hungry. Our responsibilities clear. We look at this as an opportunity, a chance to build on the work we've done.
A chance to embrace our theatrical roots and create new adventures.
What we do now paves the way for the years to come, for the Savannah Rep of the future.
We promise that the ghost light will burn brightly until it is safe to begin again.
It is our responsibility to carry on the traditions that precede us. We are Savannah Rep.
A home for great stories and great theater. The hands of the clock will move again, and this is not the end of the story.
It's a new beginning.
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 And we'll see you soon.